You filled the cracks last spring. You used the gray tube from the hardware store, the one the guy behind the counter said was the professional grade formula. By October, the filler had shrunk, pulled away from the edges, and the crack was back, wider than before. You have done this 3 times now, maybe 4. The concrete keeps cracking, the patches keep failing. The contractor who came out last fall said the whole driveway needs to come out for $8,000 and you are still thinking about it. In Japan, residential concrete driveways crack too. The winters are cold, the summers are wet, and the ground moves. But the Japanese approach to a cracked driveway is not a tube of filler and a prayer. It is a method that has been refined over centuries, applied first to stone, then to tile, then to concrete as it became common. The underlying principle is the same one that kept Japanese wooden structures standing for 400 years. You work with the material instead of against it. You fix the cause before you address the surface. You use the right chemistry for the job instead of the convenient one. This is going to save your driveway, but we have to be honest about what the driveway actually needs before we talk about what to put in it. Right, let's fix your driveway. Before we go on, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love seeing how far this story travels. And if you're loving it so far, join the family by hitting subscribe, because tomorrow we've got something special lined up just for you. We are going to do this in 4 stages. Understand why the cracks came back. Prepare the crack properly. Apply a repair that actually holds. Then seal the surface so new cracks stop forming. Skip any one of these and you are back at the hardware store next spring. Stage 1. Why the filler failed. Concrete cracks for 2 reasons, and the tube of gray filler addresses neither of them. The first reason is water. Water gets into the crack. In winter, it freezes. Frozen water expands by about 9%. That expansion forces the crack wider. When it thaws, the concrete has moved and it does not move back. Every freeze-thaw cycle is a small hydraulic jack working against your repair. The tube filler sits on top of this cycle. It does not stop it. The second reason is that the ground underneath the concrete slab is not stable. Soil compresses, shifts, and in wet climates gets saturated and soft under the slab. A slab with no support underneath flexes under load, a car tire, a delivery truck, and that flex opens cracks from below. Filler on top of a flexing slab fails the first time a heavy vehicle parks on it. The slab bent. The filler did not. Most homeowners treat the crack on the surface because that is where they can see it. The Japanese approach starts underneath, where the problem actually lives. Stage 2. Prepare the crack. This is the stage that separates a repair that lasts from one that doesn't, and it takes longer than the actual filling. Most tutorials rush through this part. That is why most repairs fail within a year. First, clear out everything that is already in the crack. Old filler, loose concrete, gravel, the soil that has washed up from underneath. All of it has to come out. Use a cold chisel and a hammer or an angle grinder with a diamond blade and widen the crack slightly in a V shape, so the opening is wider at the top than at the bottom. This is called keying the crack, and it gives the repair material something to grip. A crack filled straight in has nothing to hold against. A V-keyed crack locks the filler in place mechanically. Blow the crack clean with compressed air or a shop vac, then scrub the interior of the crack with a stiff wire brush to remove any dust, efflorescence, that is the white mineral deposit you see on old concrete, and any organic material. Rinse with clean water and let it dry completely. Damp concrete does not bond. This is the step that most people skip because they want to get the filler in and call it done. For cracks wider than 1/4 inch, before you fill anything, probe the edges. Tap alongside the crack with a hammer. If you hear a hollow sound, a dull thud rather than a sharp ring, that section of slab has separated from the base underneath. It is unsupported. You can fill the crack all day, but without support, the slab will keep flexing and the repair will keep failing. For a small hollow section, you can inject a hydraulic cement grout through small holes drilled into the slab to stabilize it. For a large section with significant subsidence, that is when you genuinely need a contractor, not to tear the whole driveway out, but to address the subbase. The surface repair comes after. Now, let me say something clearly about polyurethane caulk because the internet is full of bad advice on this one. You will see videos, well shot, confident, thousands of views, recommending standard polyurethane concrete caulk for driveway crack repair. The product is not wrong for small cracks in protected areas, but for a driveway that sees vehicle traffic and thermal expansion cycles, standard polyurethane does not have the elongation rating to keep up with the movement. It bonds well, stretches some, and then tears loose at the bond line when the crack opens past its limit. The repair looks fine for a season, then fails cleanly along the old crack line, and you are back to the start. The product to look for is a self-leveling polyurea joint filler, rated for concrete with a movement factor above 25%. It costs more, it is worth it. The bond holds under movement because the material was designed to move. Stage 3. The repair. For cracks up to ½ inch wide, the polyurea filler is your material. Mix according to the manufacturer's instructions. Most 2-part versions give you about 5 minutes of working time, so have everything staged before you open the cartridge. Pour or gun it into the prepared crack in a single pass, slightly overfilling so you can grind or scrape it flush once it cures. Most polyurea products reach working hardness in under an hour. Some are ready for vehicle traffic in 30 minutes. Check the spec sheet for your product. For cracks wider than ½ an inch, or for sections where chunks of concrete have broken out rather than just split, the Japanese method differs from the American one in a way that matters. American practice tends toward patching compounds applied and smoothed over. The Japanese approach, drawn from centuries of working with mortar and stone, treats a structural void differently. You are not filling space, you are rebuilding a load path. The product for this is a concrete bonding adhesive applied to all contact surfaces first, followed by a hydraulic cement or fast-setting concrete patching compound worked firmly into the void in layers no thicker than ½ an inch at a time. Each layer is scratched before it fully cures to give the next layer mechanical purchase. The Japanese term for this layered approach, applied here by analogy, is tsugite, which describes joinery that distributes load across a surface rather than concentrating it at a single point. You are not bridging the gap. You are rebuilding the material. Cure time matters. A fast-setting patch compound may feel hard in an hour. The full cure, at which point it has reached design strength, takes 28 days for standard cement chemistry. Do not seal the surface or apply any coating until the patch has cured for at least a week. Sealing too early traps moisture in the cement and weakens the final product. There is a detail in this stage worth pausing on because it tells you something about how seriously the repair has to be taken. The crack you are filling is, in most cases, not the first failure in the slab. Concrete does not crack once and stop. It cracks along its weakest lines, which are usually the areas with the thinnest cover over the reinforcing steel, if any was used, or the areas where the slab was poured thinner than specified, or where the subbase was less compacted than the rest. Once you see one crack in a driveway, the adjacent areas are the next candidates. The Japanese approach to this kind of systemic weakness is not to fix the visible crack and walk away. It is to look at the whole slab and understand which sections are next. Walk the driveway after the repair. Tap suspicious areas with a hammer. Probe edges. Look for the early spider web cracking, called crazing, that indicates surface shrinkage. Address those areas now before they become the next repair job. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Stage 4. The seal. This is the part that makes the repair permanent instead of temporary, and it is the part where the Japanese method diverges most sharply from what most homeowners do. In Japan, the principle underlying long-term concrete maintenance is the same one applied to wood, to tile, to almost any building material. You manage water at the surface before it ever reaches the interior. Not by adding a hard coating, which concrete breaks through as it expands and contracts, but by treating the surface with a penetrating sealer that bonds at the molecular level to the concrete itself. The product category is a silane siloxane concrete sealer. It works on the same logic as penetrating oil on wood. The sealer soaks into the concrete, bonds with the calcium silicate inside, and creates a hydrophobic barrier from within. Water beads on the surface and cannot penetrate. Ice cannot form inside the concrete because the water never gets there. The sealer does not sit on top as a film that can peel. It becomes part of the concrete. Application is straightforward. The concrete must be clean, dry, and fully cured. At least 28 days old if you poured new patches, or for existing concrete, simply clean and dry. Apply the sealer with a low-pressure pump sprayer in one even coat. Flooding the surface wastes product. You are not painting it. You are wetting it just enough to let it absorb. Let it cure for 24 hours before foot traffic. 72 before vehicle traffic. The sealer needs reapplication every 3 to 5 years depending on traffic and climate. A gallon covers roughly 200 to 400 square feet, so an average 2-car driveway takes 2 to 3 gallons. At $30 to $50 a gallon, the material cost is $60 to $150. That is it. Let me know in the comments what you have been using on your driveway cracks. The tube filler, the caulk, the pour-and-go liquid, did it make it through winter? There is a concept in traditional Japanese craft called ma, roughly, the appropriate space between things. In joinery and in stonework, the Japanese carpenter or mason does not try to eliminate all gaps. A joint with no room to move will crack. The goal is a gap of the right size in the right place, managed so that movement is controlled rather than catastrophic. The cracks in your driveway are made that went wrong. The concrete tried to accommodate movement, thermal expansion, soil shift, freeze-thaw, and cracked because it had no place designed for that movement to go. Control joints, the straight lines cut into concrete at regular intervals, are the designed answer to this. Places where the concrete is allowed to crack in a straight, manageable line rather than randomly across the slab. Many residential driveways were poured without adequate control joints. That oversight shows up later as random cracking, which looks worse and is harder to repair than a clean control joint. If your driveway has few or no control joints, and the cracks are appearing seemingly at random, consider having a saw cut added along the main stress lines. A concrete saw cut is not a jackhammer job. It is a half-day's work with a rented concrete saw, a straight edge, and a vacuum. New control joints in an existing slab give the concrete a place to crack on your terms rather than its own. This weekend, walk the driveway and identify every crack wider than a hairline. Mark them with chalk. Note which ones have hollow spots alongside them. Look for the crazing and the edge crumbling that signals the next round of failures. Next weekend, prepare and fill every marked crack. V-key, clean, dry, bond, fill. Patch any broken out sections in layers. Let everything cure through the week. Week 3 or 4. Apply the silane siloxane sealer across the whole surface on a dry day above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Let it cure. From that point, walk the driveway once a spring and once in autumn. Any new hairline crack gets V-keyed and filled before winter arrives. The whole maintenance pass takes an afternoon. Cold chisel and wire brush, already in the garage, or $15 at most. Diamond blade for an angle grinder, $20 to $30. Polyurea crack filler, 2 cartridge kit, $40 to $60. Concrete bonding adhesive for wider repairs, $15. Fast setting patching compound, $20 to $30 a bag. Silane siloxane sealer for a 2-car driveway, $80 to $150 in product. Total first-year cost, somewhere between $175 and $275, depending on how much patching compound you need. Compare that to $8,000 for a full replacement, or $300 to $500 for a contractor's crack-filling visit that uses the same materials you could apply yourself, or the ongoing cycle of tube filler every spring at $15 a tube that does nothing about the underlying problem. The math does not require much analysis. The deeper principle here is the same one in every Japanese method applied to a home. You are not fighting the material, you are working with its physics. Concrete moves, water penetrates, ground shifts. These are not problems to be stopped with a tube of gray compound. They are forces to be managed through preparation, the right materials, and attention given early rather than rescue applied late. A crack caught at 2 millimeters and filled properly costs 20 minutes and $5 of material. The same crack left through 2 winters costs a weekend and $200. Left through 5 winters, it costs a contractor's estimate and a hard conversation about whether the slab can be saved. Your driveway does not need a contractor. It does not need a jackhammer. It needs the same patient, material-honest approach that Japanese craftsmen have applied to built surfaces for centuries. The crack is telling you something. Listen to it early enough, and the answer is simple. That's the story, for now. If you found it worth your time, subscribing and hitting the bell costs you nothing and helps more than you'd think. Another one's coming tomorrow. Thanks for watching.